takeaway?
Mm, well, I'm not taking anything away yet. Uh, let's
Takeaway.
here. Let me just let's breathe together for a minute, and I will tune into that, and I'll take away the other echo. That's what I'm taking away is an echo because we just went live on YouTube,
Okay.
and that's on the law of the earth, and that's who we are. So let's connect with ourselves and our sovereign capacity, our living law of the earth, nature, natural law expressing itself through us as divine creators in concert and harmony, coming together for a collaboration, for a intermingling of our divine frequencies. We're in different geographical locations, but we are psychically in the same space, digitally in the same space. So let's breathe into this space together and call in all the highest aspects of ourselves and the scattered remnants of who we are, things we've given away, dropped, or lost, calling them back to us here and now to make us whole and complete, calling the ancient us and the future us into the present, unifying all space and time into this beautiful gem of the current reality that we are flowing through as the current sea, the divine abundance of creation. And speaking to the ancient and to the future, the theme today is Indigenous revival. Let us contemplate for a moment the meaning of Indigenous. We can break it down to Indi meaning from within and genus meaning having to do with creation. So creating from within, dreaming into being in collaboration with all the aspects of ourselves, the beautiful expressions that we see, that we hear, that we don't see, that we don't hear, but we may be able to sense if we can feel deeply enough. And as we move towards this March 14th blood moon lunar eclipse, giving thanks for all the aspects that are present here with us to give us strength, to give us fortitude, to help us with their guidance, with our guidance, as we whisper secrets of truth and revelations of beauty to ourselves from all the corners of the dimensions that we are spread out between. I'd like to welcome uh, any peeps, any whisperings that may be wanting to come through you. If you'd like to speak, if you'd like to make a sound, if you'd like to make an expression, this is a shared space where we're honoring what's present for each of us and for all of us together. Acknowledging that although there's three, and it looks like sort of four of us because there's twins on the call here on the Zoom, we also are connected with our networks, with our soul family, with our tribes that are present, even though they're not as present as we are. So calling in the hive. Synchronistically, I just saw an email come across my screen. It was from the hive. And so live liberated. When I first saw that, I I thought it was live libertad, and they're very similar, just one letter difference.
Yeah.
All right.
Freedom
Well,
either way. Yeah.
how is your sister? Sister?
I think she's doing really well. I mean, our business is Liberated Living, and we have a couple of different Zoom accounts. So I think this one was just under a different name. But but ultimately, even in you as you were acknowledging the blood lunar eclipse, I was thinking about how much it is about transformation and change, and then tuning in and trying to illuminate maybe those patterns or revealing what needs to be illuminated in our mind or brought to the surface for clarity, for deeper understanding, but knowing that all of that is cycling completions of um, of new beginnings and healing, but is indeed for our empowerment and freedom. So anyway, I was just I'm curious and I'm excited to hear what you'll be leading us through today. But I think that uh, in just keeping in mind that, as you mentioned, the Indigenous, it's also knowing that it's getting us back to those Indigenous practices and rituals, and then that is also inclusive of the lunar cycles too. And that's all I was sharing. So
Beautiful. That's
yeah,
so true. It's all about timing, yeah.
it
It's
is always timing. Yeah,
the cosmic pulse beating in our hearts and through all of our beings um, that we can consciously align with. And there are cultures that have, and there are cultures that aren't really there yet. And we kind of were raised in one that isn't really there yet. Right? Um, but the Indigenous revival is here now to remedy that, to help us step consciously back into time, into um, compassionate action, compassionate presence with the pulse of all of life that we are. Um, I'm curious if either of you, have, had that concept before about thinking that indigenous can mean creating from within, or how would you have defined it? I mean, is that a new kind of a definition that for you, or you? Because I mean, it's something that came to me only just recently, really, breaking down the word into like indie
yeah,
within, which also
yeah.
means independent.
I liked that reframe on it because I think that it's often referred to as the inhabitants, within like a specific region or geographic area. But I think we have to recognize that inhabiting is also just specific and what's native to us, that it is um, our own internal reality and the traditions and customs that are also brought from, I'm going to say, our ancestors, that we're practicing those rituals. So a lot of that does come from, I don't like to use the term genetics, but kind of from our own, um, perhaps history and records. I don't know if Akashic records is the right term to use with that, but I did like that reframe on it. So
Hmm.
it helps us to connect to kind of that internal heritage, right? Of what's, anyway, just, but I'm still meditating on it.
Yeah, totally resonating with that. And Leslie wrote, yeah, native. We all need the alternative. Ah, that's good.
That's
I'm
cute.
feeling that.
Yeah.
That's what it's become. Right. We have now the mainstream or the lamestream and the alternative. But that's a good observation that native is right in the word alternative. An altar is a sacred space, right? And it represents change, which is definition of magic, right? And that's what we use our altars to perform is magic to create change and transformation. And I'm reading this while I'm listening to an audiobook that's called The Cosmic Serpent as on the recommended reading list from my teacher, Jocelyn Starfeather, with whom I'm going to Egypt next month
Mm.
and doing a 10-day tour that starts on my 33rd birthday.
Oh, fascinating. Way to go.
Yeah. And in the Cosmic Serpent, um, it talks about DNA. That's what the Cosmic Serpent is. And this is the reason that so many different, um, shamanic practitioners from, from all around, uh,
Right.
all see the same vision of snakes, like when they use ayahuasca or other methods of seeing within, and they're going down to see the micro level. And a lot of the visionary artwork that comes from those transcendent psychedelic experiences, if you show it to a microbiologist, he'll be like, "Oh, those are things I look out under a microscope that they've drawn here based on their visions." Because they're going deep within. And
Right.
Leslie says, the cosmic serpent in the year of the snake. That's this year. I forgot now. Are we in we are we in the year of the snake? Nice. Yeah, 33 metal snake. What is the 33? I'm turning 33. Ah, it's true.
Mhm.
It's true, it's true. So
Yeah.
yeah, and that it's so interesting about like the genetics that we inherit. And I just I wrote a speech and I shared it on a live stream yesterday, and I'm making a video about it, about breaking down other words like inheritance and heritage and heretic, and how all those words have the Latin root heres, which means um, well, it's like eres in Spanish, which means you are, but the word in Latin means air, like not like we breathe, but the air to the divine, the heir to the stewardship of the earth, the heir to the ancient customs and traditions, our inheritance, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's no coincidence that her is part of that word, meaning the
I
divine
like
mother.
to I like to believe that too. But it's the divine feminine, or as you would say, maybe that serpent, that kundalini within all of us too, right? Because it is that feminine intuition that's symbolized, as the serpent, for the awakening and representing that energy's potential for our growth and awakening,
Mhm.
right? The sacred meaning of within all of us of that divine feminine.
Yes, and she's the mother of all life.
Mm-hmm.
And mother is like matter, and it's a biological, uh, physical matter that this DNA is the cosmic serpent of these intertwining helixes that are the life-giving principle that are this. It's the same throughout all the life, like the actual like structure and function of DNA. It works exactly the same for
Yeah.
every life form, and so it's unifying. It's it's the
Have
core
you
of who
looked
we
at
are.
Oribus? The Oribus?
Yes.
Okay. How it's like a zygote for the snake to eat its tail.
Oh,
What do you mean by zygote?
Like an egg. Like before the zygote becomes a kind of
yeah,
fertile.
that symbol of the eternity cycles. Is that what um,
Right?
more or less you're referring to? Kind of the Gnosticism that carries that meaning, I think is what you're, that symbol, correct? The unification of the
Right.
self.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a snake eating its tail. And I feel like
Correct.
we're coming into a
Yes.
space where
Beautiful.
it's two snakes going up the rod, kind of like the
Yeah.
hermetic symbol medicine.
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect example. And just overall transformation of like the death and rebirth cycles, right? That everything's interconnected, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of like the unity of the opposites, is what I'm referencing there.
Leslie, I see you're still talking, but you went on mute.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I was just agreeing with her that I can totally see the unity of the opposites and the fact that it's like darkness and light. And when you said the mater, the matter and the mother, it's like um I don't know if y'all are familiar with Facebook's special aeronautical space program.
mm.
I only am because they have bought land, the airstrip over here off of 50th and Rockwell, and started codifying everything in slug
Mm.
dot. That became spider spores, and then they turned to like phantobots. And I don't want to demonize anything anymore. I'm like I'm so determined to make a heaven and hell. It's just being with this material and having it being part of our existence. I really feel it's happened before, and it makes things possible for us to go back, and that's also why we're fragmented. But back to the zygote thing, it's also like the slug dot and the 1011 being one entity has created an I that we didn't see.
Mm. Like the Eye of Horus, that there's always the representation. I mean, speaking of like sacred Egyptian wisdom, right? And knowing without trying to go down that conspiratorial rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I guess
all things
to get without getting
good.
controversial, but trying to stay neutral. Um,
Right.
the and you're talking about the Mayat, the concept of that Egyptian wisdom. Is that what you're referring to? I don't know if that's what you're referring to, like the matter, knowing that it is part of our balance and, kind of governs the universe anyway. But
The
knowing that
grid,
is, yeah,
it's the yoga mat, it's what holds
all
all
of it.
all the
Yeah,
in place. And I feel like
I
there's
love that.
also a Louis Giglio TED talk of laminin, which is a cell adhesion molecule that holds all things together at the root.
I like that.
And it is a cross, okay? Like it's shaped like a cross. It's just interesting how that all works out. And the cross is like it's white and gray when they put it under the microscope. And so where it touches is the darkest place. Okay. The two um I don't know if they're protons or ions or electrons. So electrons and protons creating ions is more how I see it. And the iconic symbology of the structure represents is something that is a signature move in every molecule. And I just find that so freaking amazeballs. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just
So give
amazing.
us, can you provide an example, or because I can visualize what you're referring to, but I want an example. Otherwise my imagination can run wild.
Okay, so like for instance, before they come together, if it's just two ions that are like straight up and down, okay, then that would represent something of the structure, a bit of like um the Ouroboros no longer eating its tail, or the zygote becoming a formidable being, the protozoic energy of the I am. But then when they come together, okay, to become the cell adhesion molecules that hold all things together, and where they touch being the darkest place in them, okay, it's
Right.
like the overcoming of shadow. But then if you think about the fact that like there's no darkness,
Right.
there's no darkness, it's all gradients of light. And the fact that we're in this RGB plane, okay, red, green, blue, well, that spectrum being what it is somewhat limited. So I can see why we couldn't see this unless we dig for it and really like try to peer into it. And I think that really takes finding eyes that we can't see. And I wouldn't even know about that if I hadn't gone through my training, like minded therapy, and learning that I had eyes I couldn't see. you
Mm.
know it's like we can see that we have the eyes, but we're not looking at them. And then you think about when it comes together in a big way, it would be lattice. Okay, it would be like a grid of matter, you know if it's a harmonic coming together. Otherwise, it's just white crosses that are like scattered in the wind, which made me just now think of that movie Spirited Away, where the dragon turns into like these little paper white crosses that just get scattered in the wind. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Studio Ghibli films, but I really find that the Chinese people have some excellent storytelling going on.
But that's Japanese.
Is it
Yeah.
Japanese?
Yeah, that's from
Yay!
Japan.
I'm so glad to know that. That's
I mean, I
why did I
agree. I agree that China has great storytelling too,
Mm.
yeah. So you are familiar with the Studio Ghibli, right?
Yes, that's really beautiful.
Nice. Good Asian. Yeah, the Asian cultures.
That's
Yeah, I
cool.
I love the
Mon-
metaphor, and I think it's so apropos and just timely. Again, as we're discussing the eclipses, knowing that it really is about bringing kind of those polarities together, the opposites, and it's within the opposites that we find that we are both the light and dark. We are the night and day. We are actually uh, putting those into a harmonious order, and knowing that we are becoming where we maybe more or less a way to say it is the serpent energy. I think we're often afraid of. We're afraid of our feminine enlightenment. We're afraid of, because we know it's going to prompt us for change and transformation, and to embrace the dark, excuse me, but to bring the light to the dark, which is, I think, in essence, what that serpent Puranic energy is, and that process. And I believe, if you know Joe Dispenza, he does discuss this as a Kundalini awakening, that it's crystallizing activating those pineal crystals, within the third eye, but helping to bring that role of our own inner enlightenment into this materium, into this physical realm, and into a plane. Anyway, so I'm just trying to understand. This is the way, of course, like the complexities and the way my mind operates when I hear you.
Yeah,
And Yeah.
I think we have fear of that because
Yes.
we've been trained to fear nature.
Fear our light, fear
We're
our transform. Yes.
we're receiving messages through media that say over and over to us all day, like, be afraid of nature,
Yes.
but you can
And it's our
trust
own nature
the
because we have
science.
that symbiotic relationship with nature. We are one with nature, and the more we are in alignment with nature and living in that parallel cycle to nature, the more at balance and harmony we are, and we've established that nature within ourselves. But the more in contrast we are, the more we're going to see imbalanced evidence in our life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
Right.
this is important. I really would like to address this. Like, how can we overcome this trained response of fear of nature that we've learned because we've been exposed to so many messages that say nature isn't safe, right?
Good question.
How can we move through that fear and embrace the transformation that life is?
Well,
And
that's a good question. Yeah. Rhetorical or not, I tend to dominate in talking, so I can give someone else the floor.
I see Leslie
Yeah,
wrote,
that's
fear and faith are two F words on the same spectrum of activity. Trust is a roof. Do you want to explain that a bit more, Leslie? That seems pretty
yeah.
on the same spectrum. We
I
can't
don't
hear you.
think we can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, we have F words fighting for our functional purpose. Okay.
Fighting for our functional purpose.
They are. Yeah. And we have to engage on purpose, in purpose, with purpose to find our foundation. For our foundations to be founded and well founded, we have to fight on purpose in a way that we are engaged. It's not even a war, it's too simple once we engage truly.
And
And
so,
our resist if Joseph, I know Joe Dispenza
Yeah.
has mentioned resistance creating persistence, and how um to run away, it just creates war. It leaves our brothers on the field, to die in battle. It
Yeah.
forsakes the purpose that we're here for.
Yes. Right. And that's a beautiful example because I think that it's embracing fear as our power or as a practice rather than running or escaping it. Because I think that in society we've been taught to kind of anesthetize it. So we might fear change, or we might fear something, and so therefore we may turn to dopamine. We may turn to addiction. We may turn to some substance as a feel good. It's whatever our drug is or drug of choice is. But I agree with you. It's embracing it, which involves the acknowledging its presence, because I think we often fear what we don't understand. And to understand something is to know or accept the purpose of its existence. So if we can maybe recognize that this is for our growth, for our empowerment, it can help us to embrace the fear. And then we can recognize the fear. It's not only a natural response because it is part of being human. It's our primal instinct because it is designed to protect us from danger, for instance. So it's helpful that we can recognize fear is rational. And it could even sometimes be based on past experiences. Past experiences have taught us that fire is dangerous, but yet fire can also be a useful tool if we understand its purpose and how to use it. So just like anything else, it's knowing how to work with it instead of run from it. And I always think of the example of you probably have all heard about the bulls that run into the storm, right?
no, I haven't heard about that. But if I
Okay.
can just interject and
Yeah, go
speak
ahead. Yeah.
locally, you
Yeah.
you both are speaking fire.
Oh,
I'm so
yeah.
grateful to have you both on here because you're just dropping gems of wisdom here, and it's a great learning experience. So thank you so much for
Oh,
sharing. And
thank
yeah, I'd
you.
love to learn what the
Thank
bulls running into the storm is all about too.
Okay, yeah, and thanks for having us, Keegan. I think this is just a simple example of the idea that bulls that run into the storm as a metaphor because it invokes the idea that they are not putting off or escaping the inevitable storm that's coming their way. And so they use the courage, and it's often symbolically in both spiritual and motivational contexts, but just to represent the mindset of facing the challenge head on rather than avoiding it. So, if we can use that as an example, that the bull charges or runs into the storm versus trying to keep running away, knowing it's going to eventually catch up to it. So it's a power to face them head on.
Makes me think of playing in the ocean in California where there's big waves, and
Right.
it's just fun to challenge the wave and like try to just
Right. To be
meet
one
it
with
head
the
on.
wave. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, so thank you for sharing that. But I do agree. I think the more often we can confront our fears, the more resilient we become, and the more confidence we also develop because we no longer feel that we aren't capable of facing our fears. And then fear does, in essence, and I know it sounds cliche, but it does become a friend because we recognize it's just teaching us, it's pointing to us where we have room to stretch and grow, and that will continue to upgrade our life, in essence.
Yeah, and then most of it has to do with our projections of what might happen, right?
Right. The fear of the unknown. Because I
Mm.
think our mind attaches so much to familiarity, and it wants what's familiar because what's familiar is certainty in the mind. And so our mind wants to fill in all of those blanks and doesn't know how to work with uncertainty, but yet that's actually where the magic is.
Yeah.
Right.
And if I can pick up that thread of we were looking at heritage and her, um, and how that's presence, right? If we have her here, if we are
Two.
just present with the Divine Mother, with the life-giving principle,
Oh,
the
I
goddess
love
that's
that.
everywhere, then that's transcendent of the fear, which is about projection, right, into the future, or well, pretty much mostly about the future, isn't it?
That's beautiful. I like that. And it helps us to rise to the occasion. And yeah, take on that personal challenge and within that context or wherever we may need to have courage to take the risk and embrace that challenge.
Yay. So presence to what is a present of fearlessness.
Mm-hmm.
Together is the bride of life.
Oh, I like that. That's another one, another good play on words. To get her. Yep. And together, it's
To understand,
very
to
synonymous.
get her, to really to understand. And
Yeah.
the spirit that I'm looking to carry forward with these Aquarian Renaissance roundtables is that we have mutual understanding. Because in the circles I've been in recently, people tend to uh, avoid that word of understanding because they don't want to be a subject. They want to stand in their truth, in their divine sovereign creatorhood. Um, but if we are mutually understanding, and if you think of it literally, like we're standing underneath each other, then that's
Mhm.
mutually supportive. And actually, I think that's what we need to see, and that's what we need to bring forward
Yeah.
to nourish
Well,
ourselves.
and knowing that we are all part of the same collective experience. Your experience affects mine, mine affects yours because we really are in this joint universe and paradigm
Yeah.
or matrix reality, whatever term you want to use. So,
And so you're in the healing field, in right? Do you want
yeah, I was actually just having a discussion this morning, and I think I almost gained this clarity that I as much as we want to sharpen specific skills, we may go through different, various cycles or seasons in our life where we are focusing or honing in on a specific tool or cultivating that as strength or gift, whether it may be through education or specific credentials. However, I think overall in life, mastery is about mastering, you know, kind of all different trades. and our own, having so many different crafts. And so I've been I've almost been at a standstill, focusing so much on, one day I'm focusing on naturopathy, one day I'm focusing on holistic psychology, the other day I'm focusing on, but it is all encompassing. Healing is a good term to define that, but
Mm.
I find that I'm kind of all over the board. But yeah, I think in essence, I'm learning that, well, this is part of mastery, because I think I've been feeling almost stuck in terms of what is my focus. But I realize it is all of healing, because our minds are healing tool, and our mind helps us with our body. And whether it's through diet or whether it's through mindset, lifestyle, and so forth, all of these tools matter for us. And it's, I think, a part of trying to develop all of the tools for our own level of self mastery. So healing is probably a really good way to um, maybe narrow it down.
Mm.
But yeah,
Beautiful. I just thought to ask because of what you said about how we're all, influencing each other, our experiences, transfer. And
right.
so that made me think of, this concept that, people get sick not because there's contagion. It's more like a detoxifying that happens. Like when somebody has the flu, it's not like they're passing the germ to the other people. It's more like they're sharing the same. They're in proximity, and so our bodies are electromagnetic, and we have energy fields that are
Yeah,
interacting.
beautiful.
And yeah, so I just wanted to say that because it made me think of it and maybe ask you about it, like your perspective
That's an
on.
excellent point. I'm glad you expanded on that, because I think there's many different contexts or terms that we can use to knowing that the collective conscious is shaping. It plays a significant role, right, in shaping individuals, whether it's through our values or shared emotional states. But again, social movements, we have our culture experiences, but even your experience, what you share with me, can have a psychological impact, but your energy has an impact as well. So I think overall, we don't recognize how much our print is impacting one another, and how important it is to understand that we are interconnected
Yeah,
in one
and
another's
through
lives.
time as well, and
Yeah.
bringing back the indigenous revival spirit, it's like we have these fields of consciousness that we are carrying, through our lineage, uh, and
Yes.
and they're intermingling as we intermingle, and it's a beautiful tapestry that we're all weaving. But we have that, like that thread or series of threads um, that belong to us, right? That we belong to. And so Indigenous revival is something that I'm looking to propagate and promote, our connection and our awareness growing into that connection of that thread going back to the ancestors, which we all had. Like it's not just that indigenous peoples are in this location or that location on the earth. Like we all have ancestors somewhere in our
Mm-hmm.
history that belonged, like they were deeply in tune with their environment, and that's really they were dreaming the dream in harmony with nature. uh, and so that
Right.
they're
Right.
creating from within, from the womb of creation, from the divine
Yeah.
mother,
Yeah.
from
And Leslie said we are the weavers. And that's what I was thinking too. That's precisely what I was envisioning, was that we are like a tapestry woven together. And our ancestry, their roots, their experiences have been brought in through our reality and through our subconscious programming. They're in our subconscious, operating as our behaviors, operating as our beliefs through our RNA strands. So it's very important to not leave out or remove the ancestral threads. I like that you put it that way, the threads, because as we're more mindful and as we gain more conscious awareness, this awareness is a shared experience, and so we can harness that power that we have. As we know, knowledge is power, for the positive and social impact, and just that we help to create more of that change collectively.
Mhm. Oh, and that's a song. We are the weavers. We are the woven ones. We are the
Oh,
dreamers.
cute.
We are the
Okay.
dream. And maybe that's a good thing to help us kind of wind down here during the last few minutes of the hour. I want to thank you so much for being on, and maybe if we want to just kind of tune into that song together for a couple of minutes,
Uh,
uh, might be a beautiful way to send us off to our next weavings.
yeah,
If there's anything you want to share before we kind of wrap up with a little moment of song and prayer and connectivity, uh, go ahead and say that. But otherwise, I'll leave
sure. I
you.
think just being mindful of how we can bring our conscious awareness and our awakening to society from the threads of our Indigenous um, roots and continue to promote the interconnection of life. I think just being aware of how do we make a difference? What practices can we bring forth or forward? And knowing our significance and the power of our significance to others around us.
Mm, yes. And speaking of promotion, just say a quick one for Camille. I dropped her link in the YouTube chat to her website if you want to be exposed to more of this wonderful woman's wisdom and you're watching. Um, thank you for sharing. And
Thank you. Thank you, Keegan, and wonderful learning from other like minds.
definitely. So let's just spend a moment tuning in, and I welcome you to unmute and sing along if we want to sing. We are the weavers, we are the woven ones, we are the dreamers, we are the dream. We are the weavers, we are the woven ones, we are the dreamers, we are the dream. We are the weavers, we are the woven ones, we are the dreamers, we are the dream. We are the weavers, we are the woven ones, we are the dreamers, we are the dream. We are the weavers, we are the woven ones, we are the dreamers, we are the dream. And there's other parts of that song.
Beautiful.
We'll sing them together in person sometime, hopefully.
Yeah. Circle back to that. Well,
Cool.
thank you. It's been an honor.
And for me,
Thank
thank you both very much and enjoy the rest of your days. And
you too.
we'll be in touch. Hopefully you'll come
Okay.
on back.
All right.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Much love.
Mm.
Bye-bye.